hello to the robots.
Starting to the top right, the ALGIM Protoss player. It's not Squirtle, it's not MC, it's not... I'm not going to go through all of them.
LGIM first.
Yeah, he is always the one in elementary schools. Me. Raise his hand.
Starting to the bottom right, we have a Zerg opponent. It is...
Ace Team True.
He wouldn't lie to you.
Yeah, a very honest guy. And true, he dropped out of the round of 32 in Code S last season. So when he played his group, he had to face off against Fantasy, Kangho and Tasia. And True in the series lost against Kangho, was defeated in the Zerg versus Zerg, and then later on he took out Fantasy, but he had to play Kangho again, and once again in the ZVZ he didn't prevail. Unluckily for him, he fell into the second round of Code A, where he had to face another Zerg player. He was up against Effort, and apparently ZVZ is not really the matchup where True has his best days. He lost this Zerg versus Zerg as well, and is now in the up and downs. But at least here he doesn't have to play the mirror match, so that might be something where he can claim a spot and go right to Code S once again. First, on the other hand, he was playing in the first round, was successful, advanced to the second, where he then finally lost against the Zerg opponent. So we're gonna find out if he can play a little bit better here.
Yep. So we will find out very soon indeed. Forge goes down. He's already baited out the pool though with his scout, so he's not going to be able to do any cannoning. Very annoying here with the probe. He's going to make the Nexus actually first before he makes a pylon, because he's blocked so well. Look at that. Now he can even start the pylon if he wants to.
Yeah, he's blocking like a boss here. It's really crazy. I mean, this is looking so good. He blocks it again, and finally the hatch comes through.
That was way late though. Way later than True would like it.
Yeah.
That was one of the most successful blocks I've ever seen without a pylon.
He gets the Nexus before the hatch has been started. But we have now the pool completed, and the Zerglings will roam the map and try to find out what's going on. And in this scenario, we'll of course have a third base for the Zerg player fairly soon if True plays like a textbook strategy against Protoss here. We have a Forge opening, not a gateway start into the game, so roughly around 3:55 to 4:20 we should see the third hatch going down.
Yeah.
And there it is.
Yeah, there it is, right as you say that. So this is something that First is going to want to scout. This probe is sticking around a little bit in the middle of the map. He will be spotted, will he? We looked at the link on the right side. The one on the left side,
I don't really think he saw it.
yeah, I think he may have seen on the minimap, but he definitely didn't notice, or else he would have chased it.
Claiming the Zalnaga watchtower here. And at this point now, we just have First trying to macroing it up, of course, getting those overlords in position so that later on he can scout what's going on as soon as the cybernetics core is done. He wants to find out if he's facing gateway aggression, if there's a +1 attack upgrade, if there's a transition into Stargate, if we maybe even have attack with immediate robotics. But quite often we see the Stargate opening in this situation.
Yep, First checks both hatcheries. He wants to make sure 100% it's this one. This is the most common one that you see Zerg players take on this map, but every now and then you'll see him take the one on the left side because it's further away from the Protoss. But it's hard to spread creep over there, and is a little bit more isolated as a result. So, good scout by First. He sees everything and still keeps the probe down there.
You know, this is one of those maps where you can do a lot of damage with good swarm host play if you go into these positions that we have to the right side of the map. It's actually one of the few leagues that still use a star station where you can spawn on all positions. Most of the leagues these days use actually the map that is now on the ladder pull where the cross positions are forced.
What's your opinion on that, actually? For me, I think that was kind of a weird choice they made it cross spawns. I felt like the rush distance on this map was already long enough at close spawns.
I personally also thought it was a little bit weird because the map has not been around for this long.
Yeah.
And it's not like we had a huge amount of data collected where everyone was agreeing on, okay, this is just horrible and not playable at all. But I'm okay with it. I mean, whatever the reason, I'm okay with having like cross positions. With a cross position situation, you usually have longer drawn out games, good macro games, and I feel with all the smaller maps that we have these days, it's actually pretty cool. Like it just cause a little bit of variety within the map pool, and on a map like Star Station you now know that there's a huge distance, a huge rush distance, so you usually have drawn out games and you go into the mid and late game, whereas you have then smaller maps like a Killon where you have a huge variety of strategies that you can use because of how the map works.
Yeah, it's just a little bit more certainty about what type of build you can do for the map.
Shortly before 7 minutes, we have the tag into layer, pretty standard here for Zerg in this matchup. And for first, as already speculated earlier, we see the Stargate with Phoenix play, trying to take down this Overlord.
Yeah, does he show or does he hide? He shows.
Yeah, he already had them rally towards the top left. He knew that there was an Overlord position and he wanted to take it out as fast as possible. We have an interesting follow-up though. He's going into the Void Ray instead of adding additional Phoenixes. And
this
when
is really cool.
Start with a Phoenix, most Zerg players will assume that you build up to 4 or 5 Phoenixes and then start harassing the mineral lines.
Looks like he's going to do a Void Ray all-in, potentially. He could try to use the Void Ray to harass, but look at that. True goes right into Hydralisk, so this is going to be great against the Void Rays, whether it's a push or not.
This is a really fast Hydra Dam that he has here. And we have now the first few Spore Crawlers also built. But with the Void Ray, I'm really interested to see what exactly he's going to do with this. If we have... Oh, apparently he's trying to take his third base. So with the Void Rays, he can also work against Roaches. But we don't really have a lot of Roach action going on here for True. So far, I don't think he even has a Roach Warren. He just went straight into the Hydralisk then. And with the timing that he chose... You know, usually you would tech into a lair at roughly 7 minutes. He even started his lair tech a little bit faster, and therefore he doesn't really need the Roaches. Even if there is some kind of attack early on, he can rely on his Hydralisk.
And first is cannoning up here. He's going to try to take this third base with, you know, he's taking a very risky third here, but with Void Rays coming out, it's going to be great against Roaches. The problem is that's not quite what he's facing. The Phoenix, I'm going to check. I don't think he actually saw the Hydralisk Den.
Not yet. +1 attack
has
not come up.
He did actually see it earlier. Interesting. Okay, so he's still making Void Rays in the second Stargate, but he knows now that he needs to be very careful.
I mean, let's be quite frank here. There is no unit that hard counters Void Ray. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, there are a few units that are decent against Void Rays. You have Queens, for example, in Masses with Transfuse. They are strong against Void Rays. And if you get the Hydralisk close enough, they are also really good. But usually it's a matter of composition. And the Void Rays is not the only thing that First is going to rely upon here. He knows that there are already Hydralisks on the map, so what he is trying to do is either go into Charge Lots, or he goes into Storm, or he goes into Colossi. There are a few options that he has depending on what exactly True is going to do. True is not completely relying on Hydralisk only, unless he's trying to hit a bit of a timing. But with the upgrades that we have, it looks more and more like he wants to go into a Hydralisk Conserving composition and hit a timing before First can add additional tech to his strategy.
And, you know, he needs to add, you know, slowly over time the gateways to support, you know, this type of composition if he's going to keep making double Stargate Void Ray. He hasn't added robotics, which is the reason why I say gateways, because otherwise, you know, he would go into Colossi.
And also what we have for True is the speed upgrade before he goes into the range upgrade. And this is really telling, because you can see that he wants to just walk to the top right as fast as possible and do damage. Transition now into Spire, which is interesting to say the least. Might try to transition into Mutalisks later on.
Yeah, or he may be thinking there's going to be Colossi to deal with this, so he wants to have those Corruptors, but I love the position for True. He's going to come in from 2 angles here.
Yeah, moving in right now, and as we said already, this is a timing, because there's not a lot more than those Void Rays, and Void Rays are awesome, but there's so many Hydralisks that they just might not be able to deal with the Zerg numbers.
Yeah, it's going to be close here. He's going to need some force fields. Void Rays can't fight this straight up. He charges them up, but they're not doing any extra damage.
No chance for First to save the space, like none whatsoever. He's already losing his probes, and a quick focus should take out this Nexus, and there it is. Focuses it down, and now the Hydras are just trying to take down as many Void Rays as possible. He took down the third base, and resources lost at this point are actually in favor of the Protoss player.
Yeah,
of course, the Zerg losing a lot here, but the third base is gone. I'm just not sure if it was really worth it. He didn't lose too many Void Rays. I feel he was spreading his forces a little bit too much.
Yeah, and you know, he didn't target right away. He did end up killing the Nexus eventually, but I feel like the micro was better for First in that engagement. He just was able to pull his Void Rays back. He was patient, and he still has his upgrades going. And because a 3-base Zerg against a 2-base Protoss is actually quite normal, he's not in a terrible shape here. I like the macro hatch for True, though.
Yeah, he's getting another base too. He's going into a 4th. We have more and more armor upgrades now coming out for first, and he's still chrono boosting Void Rays. He will not transition unless he has this third base. He wants to have the additional gas so that he can start his Colossi transition, and I feel that he's either going to add a few Colossi or he will rely on High Templars. That could also, of course, feed back against potential Viper transition in the later stages of the game. But now we have a lot of Zerglings running in, and what True really is trying to do is deny this third base for as long as possible. As long as he can just send unit wave after wave over, take his own bases behind it and macroing it up, he's gonna be fine trading cost inefficiently as long as he takes down the third. That is the most important part. If he just trades and the third is still there and there's still mining going on for first, then he will be in trouble.
Yeah. The Zealot run by here is designed actually just to scout the composition and also try to buy a little bit more time. Uh-oh, this is not enough Zerg here. Half of his army is on the right side, but if he draws first back, then the Hydras could totally blindside him on the right side. Here they come.
But First knows it, and he immediately moves back. Doesn't have a lot of cannons at the third base, though. That's what he tried to do in the first attack. But we have a lot of Void Rays now. The Void Rays numbers are constantly increasing.
He goes for the natural.
And he's moving in. There are a lot of cannons here, but still there's just no sentry, there's no force field, no nothing. And now suddenly First also has to split his units. He's moving in and the Hydralisks are running away from the Void Rays. A smart decision.
Targeting down the Nexus there initially, but switches targets to fight the army. He needs to target. Here he does.
A few
no.
Nice force fields here. A few Zerglings in the main base, and the Protoss player is now massively ahead in supply. 15 Mutalisks trying to switch it up right now and putting that Spire to some use. In the main base, there are still Zerglings dealing with the probes.
Yeah, he's still got a few more links in there, but you know, he decided to try to run, but against that many sentries, I think he should have just sacrificed his Hydras and killed, because now he lost not only all of his Hydras, but he didn't kill the Nexus either.
True might be under the assumptions that Mutalisks are very good against this many Void Rays, but he will learn very soon that this is not the case.
Yeah, his Void Rays will deal with the Mutalisks whole-handedly.
He can try to go for a base race. This is basically the only option that he has at this point. This is exactly what he's doing. He's sending all of his units to the top left, dodging the Protoss army, already moving into the natural.
He's not attacking the Spire, he's sending his units home. He's going to just try to defend.
He's just leaving the Zealots here, because the Zealots won't help him too much anyways, so he wants to rely on his air army, and that's a very good and smart choice. He's moving back, and here comes the massive amount of Void Rays taking down everything, and of course the Hydralisks will be gone in just a few seconds. Even the Phoenix is helping out here, and still at the bottom left we have the Zealots doing damage.
Yep, Mothership Core helping out here as well. And it looks like First has basically checkmated him. He's done way too much damage down at the south. The Nexus does go down, but
he still has his two bases, the main and the natural, and at the bottom another macro hedge is just now going down. The Mutalisks are flying back.
He just doesn't have Larva
to do something against this. Yeah, Larva is going to be a problem. His bank is okay, but it won't save him against this army composition. I mean, he's building Zerglings right now, but that is only going to help him with run-bys. This is not going to help him to deal with this army.
Yeah, I mean, he's building Zerglings against mostly pure Zealots on the ground with +2. I think he can't hold this next push.
He's trying to just make this work once again with a little bit of an attempt to go for a base race. But as soon as First is just building cannons or Phoenixes, which is he doing right now, he's going to be fine. Those Void Rays will never be contested with the units that True has. If he had something else, a lot of Queens, maybe a few Spore Crawlers to help out here. Of course, also what would be really good for him would be Infestors now, but he doesn't have anything. Mutalisks and Hydras in those low numbers are not going to win him this game.
Yeah, especially not against +1/+1 upgraded Phoenixes, which can not only lift the Hydras, but also just will demolish the Mutalisks straight up. And
yeah, the Void Rays are taking everything apart here, and most of the Mutalisks are already gone. We have True now down to 83 supply.
He can recall home fairly soon too, and that's probably what he's going to do after he does as much damage here as possible. He's trying to catch those Hydras with his Phoenixes in the middle of the map, and he gets a few of them. He loses some Phoenixes, but he knows there's no more Mutas coming out, so this is okay for him. And this is game.
True was trying to execute a timing with his Hydralisks before there was anything else but Void Rays, but he took too many losses when he took down the Nexus. He killed the third, but he lost his entire army, and it was a decent trade for First, and he never lost too many Void Rays. That was the best part here for him.
Yep, GG, and I feel like First, I mean, True just underestimated the strength of the Void Rays. You know, he thought the switch would be good.
In the first engagement, it wasn't only the Void Rays, it was the Zealots that we had on the ground, and also the cannons that he had. And once the Hydralisks are gone and you don't take down the Void Ray numbers as well, there is just a critical mass that the Protoss will reach. And then sticking with the same composition is not going to win you this game.
The idea was good. He just played a little bit blind in some ways and really really underestimated those Void Rays. The Zealots too, like you said, cutting those Hydras down, and the Mutalisk switch was a good idea if he had like 2 or 3 less Void Rays, maybe. But with that many that he had and how quickly Void Rays can actually go back to defend, it just didn't work out for him.
I think the Mutalists were a little bit desperation, to be honest with you. Mutalist, the only scenario where the Mutalist will win you this game is if the Protoss player is playing a really stupid match afterwards. If he doesn't see it at all and he doesn't react at all, then you can win it. But you will never be able to fight this army with Mutalisks. This is not going to happen. The Void Rays are going to take you apart.
He already has double Stargate too to make more Phoenixes. He has 1 more upgrades.
So the switch for the Protoss is easy. If he doesn't want to go into Phoenixes, he can go Mass Cannon, and that will also help. But making that switch was a bit desperation here. He didn't really know what to do. He had the Spire earlier. What he tried to do was basically with the Spire, I think his thought process was, okay, I go in with the Hydras over and over again, and I keep those Void Ray numbers low. And as long as I keep the Void Ray numbers low, if I then send in a lot of Mutalisks, then I can take him. Yeah. But that never happened. He didn't kill a lot of the Void Rays.
Yeah, the Void Ray micro was really, really good by first.
Yeah, he always pulled them back.
Yeah, every time they were starting to lose their shields, he pulls them back, so he keeps their hit points alive really high. And also that second engagement where he didn't kill the Nexus and he lost all of his Hydras, that was a big problem.
Yeah. I don't really like the idea that True went down here. If you're up against double Stargate, this is really risky, especially when the Protoss player suddenly has the economy to just build a fleet beacon and get the range upgrade. You are screwed with Mutalisks. Like, you are in a really bad spot. If you want to go for such a transition, you have to do it before you spend this much gas on Hydralisks. They never traded cost efficiently, and he should have attempt to do something else. The original idea with the original push of the Hydras, that was something else. That could have worked if you would take down your opponent's base, but for first it was really important to get those cannons. He had like 4 or 5 cannons at his third base, and also the additional gateway units, so that really helped him to defend and trade cost efficiently. So first played a really good game at the beginning with just playing passive. And then when he saw, okay, I have the Void Ray numbers now I can do damage, he played a smart game and moved back immediately. The only thing that he can say where he could have done it a bit better is saving his wall against the Hydras that moved in. A few sentries against the Lynx.
Yeah, he could have definitely held that off.
1 or 2 force fields would have helped him. He had the cannons there to make sure that the Lynx couldn't do too much damage. 1 force field would have made this game even more one-sided than it was.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Void Ray idea was really smart. I mean, he was not scouted very early, and then once he held the push, he just was like, no, I'm going to keep making Void Rays because I still have that. He already had the critical mass for the first wave, and if he just kept making more, it's a critical mass that can beat almost anything. I mean, what are you going to throw at him besides Queens, which he can't transition into suddenly? What
actually would have been really good here, at least at the beginning, I mean, if you know that we have like the perfect vision, we see everything, would immediately going for a Swarm Host. That would have done a lot. Like, you have a very short push distance from the third base of the Protoss player to the third base of the Zerg player. Yeah. There is not really a lot that is within range, so a few Queens and Swarm Hosts would have kind of blind countered what he had.
Yeah, Locusts do really well against Void Rays because they buy time for everything else.
He also didn't really have a lot of detection except for the cannons, but I mean, this is hindsight knowledge, so it's not really something that True could attempt in the game. But we are jumping into our last game of this first set. We have now Hurricane up against Bang, which is a match that I was really looking forward to. Hurricane already in a really good spot here in this group. He won his first game against Marine King. And we have Bang, the player who won the seeding tournament. And that's actually pretty awesome. So ESF was holding a tournament where a lot of players participated. They were trying to get one of the seeds here for the up and downs. And Bang, next to Savage, won one of them. So we are going to find out if that's... yeah, how well he can do just today in his first game. He's the first time in the booth here, so that is definitely something where he will be a bit nervous, but he's up against the Protoss player now on Belcher Vestige. I'm really excited for this match.
Yeah, it's going to be good. 2-player map, and Hurricane already looking strong so far today, taking 1 map. And, you know, there's just reading the comments on Twitter and everything, a lot of people not favoring him, but I think he certainly could go all the way today. He's already up a game. Maybe he can make it too. This is the GSL up and downs. Powder and Wolf.